Stop. Hands behind your back.
What? Why are you grabbing me? I didn't do anything. Hey!
You didn't do anything.
Get this on video.
You've got the wrong person. Look at my badge.
Oh, damn.
Comment where you're watching from. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share so more people can enjoy these stories. Nobody on Maple Street saw it coming. It was one of those bright afternoons when the sun sits high. The breeze feels warm, and people think nothing bad can happen in daylight. Kids were riding bikes. A food truck parked near the corner, and the scent of grilled onions floated through the air. But then, just like a sudden snap of thunder, everything changed. The sound of a police cruiser screeching to a stop cut to the calm like a blade. People turned. Some froze. Others quietly stepped back. When trouble shows up wearing sirens, folks usually know better than to stand too close. Inside the cruiser was Officer Bradley Kane, a man who loved authority more than justice. He had a habit of acting first and thinking later, and today he was already angry before he even opened the door. A call had come through the radio. A black male, tall, wearing dark clothes, suspected of breaking into a pawn shop 2 streets over. That was all Bradley needed. An excuse. He spotted a tall black man walking down Maple Street. Calm, relaxed, hands in pockets, not bothering anybody. His name was Marcus Hill. Marcus had just finished lunch after a long night shift. He was heading toward his car, humming a soft tune to himself, not knowing anything was about to explode around him. Bradley slammed his door shut, storming across the street like a hurricane on legs. "Hey, you!" he barked. Marcus turned confused. "Sir, are you talk?" Before he could finish, Bradley charged, grabbing him by the arm with enough force to make nearby people gasp. "Don't play dumb," Bradley shouted. "Hands behind your back." Marcus staggered. "What? For what? I didn't." "Shut up," Bradley yelled. A woman standing nearby covered her mouth. A teen whispered, "Yo, what is he doing?" He didn't even ask the guy any questions. Bradley tried forcing Marcus against the hood of the police car. The scene was too familiar, too painful, too unfair, and it made people stop what they were doing just to watch. Marcus wasn't fighting back. He wasn't resisting. He just stood there, trying to keep calm while everyone around him tensed up. "Sir," Marcus said, voice steady but shaking under the pressure of the officer's grip, "you've got the wrong." I said quiet. Bradley reached for his cuffs. And that's when everything stopped, because as Marcus twisted slightly, something slipped from under his shirt, a small, shiny object hanging from a chain around his neck. Bradley froze. His face drained of color. His anger turned into confusion. Then fear. It wasn't jewelry. It was a federal badge. Marcus Hill wasn't just some guy walking home. He was a federal investigator, someone with authority higher than Bradley could ever dream of. And the moment Bradley saw that badge, he knew he hadn't just made a mistake. He knew he had grabbed the wrong man. And everyone watching felt the air around them change. People on Maple Street didn't need anyone to explain what had just happened. They saw the way Officer Bradley instantly loosened his grip. They saw how his eyes widened, as if someone had pressed a cold metal barrel against the back of his neck. Marcus slowly picked the badge up from where it dangled on his chest, let it catch the sunlight, so the officer couldn't pretend he didn't see it. "Let go of me," Marcus said quietly. Not loud, not angry, just firm enough to send Bradley's heart into a nervous gallop. Bradley stepped back. Wait, hold on. Why didn't you tell me?" Marcus stared at him, calm but disappointed. "You didn't ask." Everyone watching murmured. Phones went up. Cameras rolled. People formed a half-circle around the scene like spectators watching justice unwrap itself. Bradley swallowed hard. Sweat formed on his forehead, even though the breeze was still cool. "And Mr. Hill, sir, look," I thought. "You thought every tall black man in dark clothing must be a criminal?" Marcus asked, loud enough for the crowd to hear. Bradley's mouth opened and closed like a broken door hinge. Marcus adjusted his jacket, straightening himself where Bradley had shoved him. He wasn't just embarrassed. He wasn't just angry. He felt tired. Tired of moments like this. Tired of men like Bradley. "You want to hear something strange, officer?" Marcus said. I actually came to this area to help train local law enforcement. The crowd let out a collective. Oh, Bradley's face fell even further. Sir, please, let me explain. You assaulted a federal officer in broad daylight, Marcus said, and you did it in front of an entire street of witnesses. The tension thickened. Bradley's hand twitched near his belt, not toward a weapon, but like someone fighting the urge to run. Marcus stepped closer, lowering his voice even though the street had gone silent enough for every word to be heard. Do you have any idea how close you came to throwing your entire career away? He asked. Bradley tried to speak, but no words came. Marcus continued. You didn't stop me for questioning. You didn't ask my name. You didn't tell me why you were grabbing me. You only saw one thing, my skin. The officer flinched. A man from the crowd shouted, That's right. Tell him. An old woman added, We saw the whole thing, baby. You didn't do nothing wrong. Bradley looked around nervously, realizing he had lost control of the entire situation. Marcus reached into his pocket and pulled out his federal ID. He held up toward the crowd, letting them see it plainly. My name is Marcus Hill, he announced. I work with a federal investigative branch. And this officer grabbed me with no reason, no cause, no respect. Phones recorded every second. Bradley felt smaller and smaller with each breath. Then Marcus turned back toward him. Call your supervisor, he ordered. Right now. Bradley hesitated, but the look on Marcus's face told him there was no choice. He reached for his radio with shaky hands and called it in. The entire street waited. The truth was finally catching up, and Bradley knew it. It didn't take long. The rumble of an SUV rolled down Maple Street, and a tall woman in a dark blue uniform stepped out. Lieutenant Sarah Monroe, a supervisor known for a calm but deadly serious personality. She walked over with sharp, steady steps, glancing between Marcus, the crowd, and her trembling officer. What's going on here? She asked. Bradley pointed toward Marcus. Lieutenant, there's been a misunderstanding. Marcus crossed his arms. Yes, he misunderstood me for a criminal, grabbed me without cause, and tried to arrest me before saying a single word. Sarah raised an eyebrow. Officer Kane, is that true? Bradley stuttered. I acted on a suspect description. Marcus replied calmly. Did the description say any black man you see on the street? The crowd laughed, some shaking their heads. Sarah's eyes narrowed. Kane, step aside. Bradley moved like a child being sent to the corner for punishment. Sarah turned to Marcus with respect. Sir, I deeply apologize. If I had known a federal investigator was in our district. Marcus interrupted gently. My title isn't the problem. The problem is how quickly he thought he had the right to put his hands on someone who wasn't doing anything wrong. Sarah nodded slowly, understanding the weight of his words. Would you like to file a formal complaint? She asked. The crowd leaned forward, waiting. Marcus took a long breath. Instead of answering immediately, he looked around at the people who had watched everything. The parents holding their kids close, the young men recording on their phones, the old lady shaking her head like she'd seen this scene far too many times. He spoke so everyone could hear. This isn't just about me. It's about what happens when officers forget that they're supposed to protect, not attack. Bradley winced. Marcus continued. What I do with my complaint won't change what happened today. But how your department handles this officer will. Sarah nodded, understood. Then she stepped closer, lowering her voice, but not enough to hide her frustration. Kane, you're suspended. Effective immediately. Gasps exploded through the crowd. Bradley's jaw dropped. Lieutenant, what? You can't. You assaulted a citizen, she said sharply. A federal officer at that. And you did it without evidence, without communication, and without professionalism. Hand over your badge. Bradley's eyes turned red. Lieutenant, please. I didn't mean... Badge. Now. Bradley's shaking fingers unclipped the metal badge from his chest. It felt heavier in that moment than ever before. He placed it in her hand, defeated. The crowd clapped. Some cheered. Marcus didn't smile. He didn't enjoy watching someone lose their livelihood, but he did believe in consequences. Sarah turned to him again. Sir, we'll be filing a full report. You will be contacted. Marcus nodded. Good. The moment felt like a shift, like a wrong being corrected, even if only for a moment. But the day wasn't over yet, not by a long shot, because what Marcus said next would change everything. The street began to settle, but Marcus wasn't finished. He wasn't angry, he was focused. He felt responsible to make sure the moment meant something. He stepped forward and faced the crowd. Everybody here, he said, I want you to remember something. Bad officers depend on silence. They depend on people being too scared to speak. But today, you all stood and watched. You didn't run. You didn't hide. You recorded. That matters. People nodded. A few smiled proudly. Then Marcus turned back to Sarah. Lieutenant, I want to request a public review meeting with your department, he said. Not behind closed doors. A real community meeting. People need to be part of these conversations. Sarah blinked, surprised. You want to work with us? After all this? Marcus shrugged lightly. It's either that, or we keep repeating the same story across America, over and over again. The crowd murmured in agreement. Sarah breathed out. I can set that up, and I'll personally make sure this incident is reviewed fairly. Good, Marcus said, because it's time we stop pretending this doesn't happen. Bradley, still standing off to the side in silence, finally spoke, voice cracking. I'm sorry. Marcus looked at him, not with hatred, not with satisfaction, just with a tired sort of honesty. You're not sorry for what happened, he said softly. You're sorry because you got caught. Bradley swallowed hard. Marcus turned away from him and addressed the crowd one last time. Justice doesn't always come in a courtroom, he said. Sometimes it comes right in the street where the wrong happened. People nodded. Phones captured every angle. And for once, justice didn't feel distant. It felt immediate. It felt real. Bradley sat down on the curb, facing his hands, realizing the weight of everything he had done. Sarah escorted him back to the cruiser. Not as an officer, but as someone who had crossed a line too far to return from. Marcus walked to his car slowly, passing the same people who had watched him almost get thrown to the ground. They smiled at him, patted his back, thanked him for standing up. And as he opened his car door, he looked back at the street, a place that had started with fear but ended with truth. Sometimes justice doesn't wait. Sometimes it happens right there in broad daylight. And that day on Maple Street, justice showed up with a shining badge around a man's neck. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a new upload. Drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. And don't forget to share this video with someone who loves powerful stories. See you in the next one.